అయిపోతుంది ఒక్క నిమిషం.
Everyone, thank you all for coming. So I would like to brief you what Growel Group is, what we have been doing in the last 30 years, and then what is about the Carniwel, our pet food, and then what is the vision for the next coming years in this industry. So Growel Group started in 1994 by my grandfather, late Dr. MS Ramakrishna. He used to work in the human pharma sector before getting into the animal nutrition sector, and then in 1994, at his 60th year, he started a company called Growel Formulations, which manufactures aqua healthcare supplements. And seeing the success of that company, we started a company called Growel Feeds in 2008, promoted by my father, Mr. MVN Seshachari, and Mr. PS Narendra, Mr. Sudhir, and Mr. Srinivas. And then in 2015, we started Growel Processors, which processes shrimp and fish and then exporting to other countries. And so on a group level, we are about 2,000 crore. And then we've been in the industry for the last 30 years. And then we have a force, associates of around 2,000 plus, all the three companies put together. And we are impacting 3 lakh farmers' livelihood in the aquaculture with these 3 companies. And then we are present in 173 districts, and we have 6 manufacturing facilities, all the 3 companies put together. And all the facilities of ours are ISO certified, halal certified, HACCP, and then we have DSIR recognized R&D lab, and then we are exporting to 25 plus countries at this point in time. Our feeds, our healthcare, and then seafood. So if we expand a little bit more on the Growel Feeds, right? So we manufacture shrimp feed and fish feed. In shrimp, we manufacture black tiger and the venomai feed, and then we also manufacture hatchery feed and nursery feed. And then we have fish feed for various aquatic species in the country. I would like to say we are one of the very few companies in India which manufactures microdites, which could be as small as 150 microns, and that's been our expertise so far. And then along with the other things that we manufacture, and then that made us to get into the export market. And I'm proud to say that we are one of the very few companies which is exporting to 25 different countries from India to the on a global level. And we think with the launch of this pet food, we would want to keep this as a base to expand in the international markets as well. And just to expand more on our existing product portfolio, we formulate the balanced diets and then high quality ingredients that we use sourcing from India and also the elsewhere. And then we manufacture the microdites which have been mentioning, apart from the usual diets of shrimp and fish. And then accordingly, our manufacturing facility was also equipped from the beginning in terms of getting the right machinery from the top-notch suppliers across the world. And then using the top quality ingredients, enhancing the immunity of the animals, aquatic, and also now we have been extending that to the pet animals as well. So I would just like to walk you through the key milestones of the Growel Group in the last 30 years. As I was saying, in 1994 we have started with Growel Formulations. In 2008 we started Growel Feeds with fish feed, and then seeing the success of that, we started the shrimp feed as well in 2012-13, and then we have expanded the capacities. In 2015 we have started Growel Processors. In 2018 we have increased our capacity. And then in 2020, seeing the growing needs of the pet industry, and then leveraging the expertise of the last 30 years in the animal nutrition, we have started, noticing this industry of pet by starting a brand in aquarium fish feed, which is called Intar. That is actually our first pet food brand, and it's been 8 months already that is there in the market. And the inception has started in 2020. We did a lot of research on how to manufacture these micro diets for the pet fishes, aquarium fishes, and that's actually made us, exposed to the pet industry, not just the aquatic pet, and also the larger pets like cats and dogs and many other companion animals that we have in the industry. So the journey has started with the pet fishes, which is in town, and today, if we see, in the last few months, we have already launched our treats, which is Fuller and That Good, and which is doing very well in the market. And then with that, our presence has been there in the 4,000 outlets, spanning across 200 cities. And with that as a launch pad, we'll be using that to enter into the retail stores at our brand Carniwel. So if you see the global pet nutrition, if you see the entire gamut of why we think we could be a significant player in the pet nutrition industry, is that if you just sourcing capabilities of ours, since we are a large player, a reasonably large player in the aqua feeds, so that will help us in getting the best sourcing in terms of cost effectiveness. That we will try and pass on to the pet nutrition industry, pet nutrition of ours. And then if you see the production capabilities, since as you all are aware that animal feed machinery would be same across, if you see the shrimp feed, fish feed, the pet nutrition, it's all extrusion. So we already have mastered how to manufacture the floating fish feed and then extruded shrimp feed. We are using the same expertise and then passing on to the pet nutrition in terms of how to get the best possible kibble that would suit the needs of the pet nutrition, pet parents, and the pet, of course. So, and also the drive of the promoters, as I was saying, all the 5 directors of the company, they're always, in constant, in dire search for the new industries, wanting to give the best possible product to the animal industry. So that is always there. Their drive has been very significant and very thought-provoking in terms of we trying to get into the multiple divisions in the existing group. And then the knowledge and the know-how, definitely for this industry, for this pet products, we have done a lot of research and tied up with few of the top pet nutritionists from USA, and then we made the best possible formulation, and then we tried to adapt that to the Indian conditions. And we did a lot of trials and a lot of R&D. It's been the journey of 2.5 to 3 years, starting from 2020, mid-2022, 2024. So it has been a remarkable journey for us. And then we learned a lot. We did a lot of R&D. We did a lot of trials in the market before we actually introduced the product. It is not something that we thought of 6 months back and then trying to introduce the product. There's a lot of R&D and a lot of research has gone when we actually thought of getting into this industry. And a lot of people have involved, a lot of interest and a lot of things that we'll try and discuss in the presentation. And of course, because of all our facilities are ISO, halal, HACCP, and all these things, and you can only imagine what kind of stringency we maintain in the quality, in giving the best possible product for the pet. And same thing we have extended to the pet nutrition also, trying to leverage the facilities that we have, trying to leverage the principles that we have for the Growel fields. And established distribution network, as I was saying, we have already been in this market for the last 8 months, and we are trying to leverage that distribution network, and we'll be introducing this product in the distribution network so that it is faster, it will be faster to the pet parents in terms of the reach. And then the product will hopefully speak for itself, and then that will go from there. And I would like to ask Mr. R.K. Ramakrishna to take you over from here and then explain how the pet food trends are there in the market, and regarding our brand and what we have done specific to this brand, how are we seeing this brand in the future in the Indian market and elsewhere. Thank you.
He's been underplaying his role. He's the one who's actually got the entire focus on shifting to consumer products, to focus on the consumer and leverage our efficiency. So He's the one who's actually the driving force for us, so thank you, Karthik, for that. So I want to talk a bit about the pet industry because there are not too many meetings which actually happen. There's not a lot of information which exists around the pet industry, and pets are such an integral part of our life that we can't imagine a life without them, but they're so integrated into a family that we tend to forget what's really there, what's really going into their nutrition, what's really actually adding into the health for that. So a few key trends which we've noticed in the Indian market over the last few years has essentially been that there's a lot of humanization of pets which has been happening. Now, humanization of pets is something which has always been there. Pets have been a part of the family. Even in India, going back to a few centuries back, if you talk about the initial pets we've had, they were always the cows and the buffaloes and all this, and they would all have a name attached to it. It was not an it; it was a he or a she which was there. So pets is something which we as Indians have always had in our family. It's always something which we had as a part of our genes in that. And COVID has how integral pets are for our health, and then working towards building that. We've been doing a few researches over the last few months, the last couple of years, and we've realized that almost 70% of people now currently, when they talk about the pet is a part of the family. The pet has silently made a transition from outside the door into the bedroom, and we've not realized a lot of times that a transition like this has happened. Rising disposable incomes over the last decade or so has actually also allowed people to increase the spends on the pets, because as a member of a family, you would always spend a bit more on them than would normally do if it was a possession, which is what people used to perceive earlier. Health focus has been increasing. People are now more integrally aware, trying to be aware of what are those ingredients which are getting into your product. People want to know what's going in. And there's also been, with nuclearization of India and a lot more people going into, working outside of your hometowns, there is a need for companionship which has been existing, and that's where pets are also making a inroad. The number of sub 30-year-olds who now have a pet is actually they've been the driving force essentially in terms of pet ownership, and they're driving the pet ownership in India currently. E-commerce boom has been happening over the last decade. E-commerce is something which there's been. I come from a time when even mobile phones didn't exist. So I'm come from that time, and now you can't imagine. If you talk about food, everyone would first say Swiggy, then even talk about. So we're actually getting used to e-commerce. We've actually started working on that. And online pet sales also Amazon's. There are a lot of pet specific websites which are existing, and all of these have actually taken a lot of share out of the business, and that's a business which has been growing by almost about 45% plus. There's awareness happening about ingredients, which was there internationally. It's now coming also into India. People are asking about the ingredients. People are demanding a higher quality of product, and that's all of these are positive signs which we see for this industry. And what's that's essentially leading to is that we are slowly going into tapping into $1 billion market. A market which was about 1,000 crores not too far back is now about a 3,500 crore market, 3,500 to 4,000 crore market, and it's now by 2027 is expected to be a $1 billion market. It's supposed to expect to reach that. Now, if you splice this data, 70+% of this data is essentially dogs. About 25-30% is cats, which is catching up very fast. There's pet food is an anchor. Pet food is about 40 to 45% of this entire business is pet food, with about a 20% we're coming from pharma, services, and vaccines and other stuff and other products which are coming through. And if you talk about the demographic and where is this split happening, almost 50% of this market, 48% of the market is still in the top 8 cities. And the rest 92 cities in India lead to almost about a 30% number, and close to about 20% is coming from the tier 2, tier 3 towns after that. So it's not a number which you can ignore, because in India it's easy to say 20%, but when you look at the other cities, that's still a 1,600 crore market which is sitting there, which again allows us an opportunity to leverage into. In terms of channels, if we talk about, so we've tried to splice the data so that they are around for everyone to understand. In terms of channels, if you were to splice it in, we're talking about specialty trade, which was 100% of it. Earlier, if you wanted a pet food, you had to go to a pet shop. Now that's about 70 to 80% is the numbers which you're looking at. Online's caught up very quickly from almost 0 to about 10%. There's groceries which are about 10%. We believe that online will continue to grow faster. So online still is the leading force in terms of the growth. Online, e-commerce and all of these are driving numbers. The market, which was currently about 3,400 crores last year, is expected to be about 8,000 crore by 2027-28, which is essentially growing at almost at 20% year-on-year. So which makes it one of those one of the fastest growing industries and one of those most exciting industries, because a lot more investments are coming into this market, and a lot more awareness is increasing about pets. And that's all things which are doing. So we expect that 21% of growth which would happen would essentially be from about 11% of that is because of pet population increasing, coming into the mainstream food. And about 10% of that is because the spends on pets are going to increase around. Again, why would the spend increase? Because adoption of pet food is going to increase. People are busier, people have lesser time, just like our food there's a larger share of home food has moved into or ready to eat meals. This is also something that's going to move through. Increase in purchase frequencies is going to happen, increase in spends per order, all of these things would essentially drive the numbers. So if we talk about pet care, currently a few numbers which we thought would be relevant is that in the top 100 urban cities, pet care or pet adoption is still only 8% of India. Now, if you were to compare with international, US kind of markets, US is about 40-45% pet adoption. So if 1 in every 2 houses currently have a pet in the US, even a country like China, which is comparable to us in terms of demographics, in terms of space, compactness and all, even China is sitting at around a 20% adoption for pets, which means there's a headroom for growth there. A second thing is also that in terms of calorie penetration, which is essentially pet food penetration, still only about 20%, sub 20%. Even a country like Brazil, which is similar to India in terms of geographies, it's at that stage of evolution which is similar to India or slightly behind India. Even they have close to about a 70% of calorie penetration, which means 70% of the pets in that country are actually on pet food, on organized pet food. So the headroom there's a lot of headroom to go, which barely scratching the surface. And for the next decade or so, we expect the pet food industry to grow by at least a 20% year on year. And in the next 4 to 5 years, we're expecting it to close to essentially cross $1 billion as an industry as such. Spends per population, as I mentioned, spends are growing up. Overall pet food market, again, cat is going to drive the growth because cat's going to lead the growth. Cats are easier to maintain, and a lot more people, the more nuclearized people are getting, the more the cat adoptions are increasing. And all of that's kind of pushing the numbers up. So with this essentially as a base of why we think there is scope for us to enter in. So we've essentially tried to leverage our understanding, our expertise which we built over the last 30 years. We find an industry which is very exciting, and then we wanted to kind of get into this industry and make a difference in the market. And that's why we launched Carniwel. Carniwel is essentially a wordplay on carne, which is essentially protein, it's Latin for meat, which is essentially the protein source which people do, and we wanted to wellness. So we wanted to get wellness for pets essentially through providing a variety of high quality protein for pets, and that's essentially where Carniwel is originating on from. Also, Carniwel is supposed to be something which pets give a lot of joy for us, and I've been a pet parent for close to 20 odd years, so I know the kind of impact pets make for us. Some of you have pets, some of you have multiple pets, as of just known today, and I'm very happy with that. And when they give so much for us, it's always nice for us to kind of get in and add a better quality product for the pets and then bring that home. So Carniwel is essentially all about celebrating the pet parenting journey which we have. We still keep talking about pet parenting. We would not talk about pet ownership, but pet parenting, because pets are now part of family, and that's essentially where we're coming through. So Carniwel's ambition is to essentially make premium pet nutrition accessible to all. We believe pets deserve as much care as a lot of human babies do. In my house, for example, my pet ranks ahead of my son. So, and I think a lot of people would do that. We as a brand also believe that pets deserve that attention because they give so much for us in terms of mental health, in terms of physical health. As you age forward, and it's a very strong bond which you feel with pets, and that's what we believe we can move forward in. So we are essentially leveraging the individualities. We're essentially launching a product essentially which is into size specific, it's life stage specific. multivariant proteins, a lot of health benefits. And we will talk a bit about each of them slightly as we keep progressing forward. So when we talk about premium ingredients, we're actually going not just the order, we're going beyond what is normal level. We are one of the first brands. In fact, we are the only brand in India currently who is doing fresh meat into their pet food, which improves palatability, which improves the quality of the protein. It also improves digestibility of the protein. And we're doing that essentially to increase the flavor, increase the palatability for the pets. So we're making it with fresh meat, fresh fish is being added in. We're the only ones who are using Antarctic krill for omega-3, omega-6. A lot of Antarctic krill is known to be a powerhouse for omega-3, omega-6, APA, DHA, which impacts the numbers. We've also launched a 100% vegetarian range. We are again the first brand in India who's doing a 100% vegetarian range, which is made with superfoods like spirulina, chickpeas and all that, essentially to ensure that even a vegetarian pet lover should not feel disconnected with wanting to have a pet and having how to source food for them. And that's something which we believe is a latent need for India, and we want to solve that problem as well. So made with premium ingredients, offering high protein variants like fresh chicken, fresh lamb, and fresh fish, and essentially 100% vegetarian superfoods are essentially being made. So while we were working on this, we also tried to understand what were the market gaps which existed currently, and we spent almost a year and a half working on this. We've realized that there is not enough natural options available. There's not enough work or thought about palatability for your pets. We found that digestibility is being not great. There have been issues which people have felt around their pets with the diet, and there was scope for improvement, even in the skin and coat health, in terms of the ingredients and the quality which could offer. And that's where we plugged in those gaps. So we've launched the veg range, which is entirely made with superfoods. Even in palatability, we've tested it extensively. We spent almost 4.5 months working only on the palatability trials. We tested with almost 100 plus breeders trying to identify what works. And we're very happy to say we've reached almost 90% plus palatability. Some markets we reached almost 95-97% palatability. There have hardly been any rejections which we felt around. And that's because we worked so hard on these things. We've not compromised on the quality at any point across. In terms of skin and coat, again, because of omega-3 krill, because of utilization of krill, omega-3, omega-6 being prime sources, we're getting a lot of help there. Vegetarians, again, though it is vegetarian, there's no compromise on that. We've used algal oil, we've used spirulina, we've used ingredients which super premium products would use, and we put all of that into a pet product, and we've launched it at a price point which makes it very attractive. So if you look at the price point in India, and though we talk about pet, people do not understand that there's a lot of gap which exists in the market. All pet food in India is either sub 250 rupees or above 700-800 rupees. So if I do not want to spend 800 rupees, I either shift to home cooked food or I go to the mass range, which I'm not very happy. So there's no middle path. And that's where we realized that that's what we try to map a few of the brands, what price points they map. And we are essentially taking that 500 rupee price point in the middle, focused on quality. So, and this is at an MRP level, so obviously when it goes into the market, it's obviously at a different price point. But we're talking essentially a right fit of products, ingredients and pricing, which makes it a great fit for the burgeoning India, and we want to kind of wrap up there. So at a range point, this is essentially the range we have, some of the products which we currently have. We would have products in vegetarian, we're launching for small breeds, large breeds. We also have cat range which we're working on. We've launched one in cat, we're working on 2 other variants in cat which would have shrimp, which would have a chicken variant also, which would be slightly at a more competitive price to ensure that the market has a higher chance of acceptance around it. We are also now going to launch a lamb recipe, which would be slightly more pricey because it's lamb, and this fresh lamb which is also added into that. And all of these, along with a multiple number of SKUs, with launching SKUs from 400 grams to 1 kg to 10 kgs, each of which has a certain base around it. We've also tried to understand what are the needs of people. If someone wants to try how many, so essentially we worked on multiple parameters, 6-7 parameters before we came up and said that okay, these are the SKU ranges we want to be presented at the price points which makes it far more attractive than, we are of course slightly more premium than the mass range products, but that's also because of ingredient qualities of the superior to what we're offering. some functional ingredients for every need essentially. Essentially, if you talk about, we try to work on health of the skin and coat, weight management through L-carnitine and others, healthy dental health. We've worked on heart health for cats because that's a growing concern. So taurine is something which we worked on. Digestibility, we've added in prebiotics in dietary fibers. Brown rice is something which we've used in the products. Immunity, essentially through Antarctic krill, seaweed in the vegetarian range, pumpkins, antioxidants, spirulina. Healthy muscles, again through mackerel, fish, high quality protein being added in hairball reduction in toy in cat. If someone's a cat parent, we know how big a hairball problem can be. So we added dietary fiber, so there's always healthy movement of the digestive tract which should happen. And we've built each of the ingredients which has been added in has a purpose which is for the product, and that's something which we've worked on. Strongly believe in, we want to celebrate pet parenting, and we believe we would go to any extent for our pets, and that's what we as a company also want to continue to work towards. Just a bit, while we work on this, vegetarian pet food is something which a lot of people want, but just to talk about the magnitude of the problem which exists. Indian pet food has always been something which has emulated from the West. And unlike a lot of other countries, India has the highest vegetarian population. We have more than 30% of India which is vegetarian. Our cultural, ethnic, religious considerations are all things which play into our religious, into being are all things which shape our dietary choices. And that's almost about 276 million plus vegetarians are there in India. Pet populations, if you want to talk about households in India, there's more than 50 million households in India which are vegetarian. Even if we talk about pets being only in 5% of these houses, and currently if we talk about the national standard, that's close to about 8% of that, and expected to be about 9.3 by 2027. Even if there's 5% of these houses have pets, it essentially means there's close to about 2.5 million households which have pets in them. And that's a large addressable market which is speaking to home cooked food for the largest period of time, or something which is going to work around improving stuff. So we thought that the solution for this is essentially going to be a complete vegetarian diet, right from a mother and a baby who's a month and above till a senior dog. We wanted to have a vegetarian range where your dog starts with from his first month, 45th day of birth, and then continues throughout his lifetime. And that's why we've launched an extensive range, both for small dogs and large dogs. Comes in variety packs, 400 grams, 1 kg, 3 kg, 10 kg. Superior food, this GMO free. It's 100% pure vegetarian. Superfoods like algal oil, spirulina, seaweed, each of them have been added in to ensure that the complete balanced nutrition exists for our pets without compromising and without the need to compromise on our dietary choices which we have. Our range, if we talk about, we are essentially having 6 protein types, 6 protein sources, 3 life stages, starter, puppy, adult. We currently, we would have a total of about 90 SKUs. We start with about 40 odd, and as the rest of the products are in field trials, and as we keep coming out of field trials, we keep launching those products in. And we'll keep inviting you guys whenever we do a launch around that. And we will also expand our portfolio into the veterans. There's work happening around that, but again, we want to ensure that the product which we offer is superior, and that's essentially what we want to do. A quick look about where Carniwel is going, what are our growth plans. Our growth plan is essentially built hinging around 4 points. One is distribution reach. We currently, over the last few months, we built our distribution depth to almost about 200 plus towns, cities and towns, and close to about 50 odd distributors with almost a presence in about 4,000 outlets. We intend to leverage this, and through placement, assortment, and sampling, we intend to expand our distribution reach. We as a company are also focusing extensively on sampling. We would do more than 1 million, close to a couple of million of samples in this financial year till about March. And no company has really done that amount of sampling. 2 million samples is essentially what we go to drive for. Channel expansion is something we're focusing on. We're starting with the SPT, which contributes about 80% is present online. We're also expanding into all channels. Quick commerce, we're leveraging other channels and expanding into modern trade, something which we would expand to. And we want to ensure that we present everywhere a pet parent would go, so that our food is readily available for them. Product innovation, something which we're doing. So we're staggering our product launches, basis driven, community driven innovation, something which we're working on, trying to understand. So if there is a demand which we find for a senior dog, we will probably launch that also somewhere a few months later. So we're planning for each of these things depending on requirements from Bangalore. Even our marketing is going to be focused more, while it's on digital and influencer marketing, we also want to build communities, micro communities around in each city to ensure that we can understand what people want and we work towards solutions which people actually require. And we're doubling down also on in-store branding to increase our recall at the shop floor. This is essentially our ambition is that in the next 5 years, by 2030, we want to be a 500 crore brand in India on this, which would give us about an 8 to 10% market share by then. That's just about it. Thank you very much. Ornamental fish. And ornamental fish is actually one of those first ones which is there. I mean, while we talk about 2-3 breeds, we also have koi, we also have this thing. And just to talk about why we could actually speed, and even though we say it's 2.5 years we've spent, we still think it was faster because the ornamental fish actually gave us a lot of base for us to work and understand. Because those fish, there are some feeds which are top feeders, some which are bottom feeders, and some for which the food has to be in the middle. Which means there has to be different density of the kibble. And that's something we've been working on. Also on the quality, just to add an additional point on this, is that we've also spent a lot of time and effort to ensure that the kibbles also quickly rehydratable. We've taken international. Yes.
So on that front, how is your food related?
So we rehydrate in sub 5 minutes. That's something which we can claim on. So the starter food.
Water, etc.
Yes.
But normally people don't use it that way. They just feed the dog with
Which is the normal way of how the people feed, and we're at par with everyone else. The densities we've tested, the densities we've tested. So we're benchmarked ourselves with the premium most brands, and we've held our ground on every one of them. We've tested it extensively in the market to understand how the palatability has been. Because for a dog, it's not just about the taste of it. It's the smell, it's the texture, it's the crunch which the dog has to feel, and each of these play a parameter in how the dog's going to, dog or cat for that matter, work on deciding whether they want to eat it or not. And cats, for example, if someone has a cat, they would know that they're very picky. And a cat, if it doesn't like the crunch, you would leave it. So that's what has taken us 4-5 months to work on. Field trials have essentially gone close to about a year plus in terms of production trials, and we spent extensive amount of time and effort, and of course money to perfect these things out.
What is the investments you have to make?
So I think we had a discussion. You were there last time. We had a. So as I'm trying to we just took on to the same point. So we intend to invest around 100 crores in the next 5 years in this segment, and then we will see how our business will grow.
And that's also because we are leveraging a lot of our existing understanding. So a lot of manpower we're going to push into the pet industry. There are, because we're already existing customers, we already have the land banks for all of this. We're not accounting for a lot of these costs. So that's essentially why we're able to get this into this 100 CR. Otherwise, if we were to club the rest of them, the cost would be far higher.
Facilities.
Our facility, the pet food production is happening in Singaraipalam, which is in Andhra Pradesh.
Capacity.
20% of suppliers are common. It allows us a great scale in terms of when we're negotiating with the supplier for a higher quality ingredient. In comparison, all other pet foods in India do about 40-50,000 tons. Where premium nutrition is a smaller subset of their food, which allows us to raise competitive. So we managed to get the price point as low as possible, so without compromising on the nutrition. So we've come to a point where we've kind of built the product essentially. If we were to talk about, let's say, one ingredient, Antarctic krill. Antarctic krill has to be sourced from the northern seas. It's not. There's only one supplier, one area where you can source it from, and it's also sourced very sustainably. So these are these ingredients which we will not
Quality control,
compromise on. Price point, yes, we agree, but we also believe the right amount of nutrition is something which is very important. And that's where we didn't want to compromise on what nutrition is possible. We are offering a product which is essentially at par or slightly ahead of even the premium brands in India currently, and we are almost at about a 50 to 60% of the price point. So others, yes, but still, if you want to talk about, it's slightly more costlier than the pedigrees and the blues of the world, to take a couple of names. But again, the nutrition is something which, it's essentially something which will help us have the pets healthier, happier, which will also keep us healthier and happier longer. That's essentially the underlying philosophy with which we started working on. Now, regards the health concerns and regarding quality. So we have a large quality team in place already. These are challenges which have existed, and we have a quality assurance team in place, which is a large team. And since we also export to the European Union, the Middle East, and the US, and all of these are stringent on this, we already have checks and balances about each of these things. We in fact even do salmonella and bacterial contamination, so expose it to abuse of weather to understand whether the product's going to, what was the product's reaction going to be. And we worked on ensuring that this quality are there. There are about 10 point or 12 point, I do not remember the exact number, 10 to 12 point quality assurance guidelines which are followed. And it takes about 5 to 8 days before the product is released for packing. So that's the kind of extensiveness which the brands currently use.
So what's the kind of exports that you're into? What's the quantity that you export? What's the market size?
Yeah, now add on to the point which RK was mentioned, just to bit on the quality. So you'll have to understand the point that aqua feeds, which is shrimp and fish feed, is a very what do you call it? Yeah, it's a very sensitive animal. So when you are trying to give a better nutrition for those kind of animals, you have to have n number of checks and balances in terms of quality, ingredients, and everything. And we are trying to have that DNA into this pet nutrition as well. And as far as the ingredients are concerned, what RK was telling is bang on right. So since we produce a large quantities of feed, right? So we have the economies of scale in terms of pricing. And as he was mentioning, the problem statement what we had in front of us when we started this journey is that how are we going to give the best premium feed to our cats and dogs, the food, at a reasonably placed price point. Because we understand when you're trying to give a very good premium feed, right? You cannot give it a very low price, then you'll have to compromise on the quality. So not very pricey, not very low, the best optimal pricing and a very superior quality premium food. That was a price. That was a question that we had in front of us when we started this journey, and then that's how we put together the formula. And coming to your metal detector, that kind of a question, right? So we have a separate line in the production facility where we put all kinds of checks, where we check for E. coli, salmonella, all the other kinds of check, and then metal detectors are placed in the line just to check where if it's present in the animal, and we also do DNA tests and all these things just to see that our food is adhering to all the standards that we are claiming. If you also see, and I think RK must have mentioned in the presentation, we're also claiming that our food is 100% pure, and it comes with the DNA test that we have done, and then we are claiming that with 100% surety. And we are also claiming that on the pack, no beef, no pork in the feed, in our pet food. Which is also trying to give some comfort to our Indian consumers, which they require at this point in time. So all checks and balances, all the things are taken care of in the production, and then we are trying to give the best quality food our Indian pet parents.
Exports.
So quantities. So largely at this point in time, it's only aqua feeds. So we will try and leverage that network to start our pet food exports. But after some point in time, after establishing the brand in the Indian market, we'll be looking at it at some a point in time. Not very late, but soon we'll try and look into that as well.
What's the market size in India?
For the
For the pet food? Pet food in India is close to about currently is about 3,000 crores, which is
What's your share?
we currently starting we're launching currently on it.
We're taking baby steps. We'll see how it would go in future.
So we intend to take about 8% of the market by 2030. That's the ambition we're working with.
Are you also planning to, these days, there are a lot of things